Hello, welcome! Today I'm so excited. We are trying a brand new skill today, and that is hand embroidery. This is something that I've been wanting to try for a really long time, which you might hear me say pretty often because I tend to think about things for a long time before I actually try them. But I am very excited to finally be doing it today. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. All I know is I've seen cross stitch before. I'm familiar with what it's supposed to look like in the end, and I have lots of embroidery floss, and I've got some fabric here, some cross stitch cloth. I've got needles, I've got a hoop, so there's really nothing standing in my way now of just letting the creativity flow and seeing what I end up with. I think it's gonna go well. I think it's gonna be fun, and I think we're gonna get something cool in the end. So we may not know what we're doing exactly, but that's not gonna stop us. Alright, so I've just sketched out my little drawing here on the material. I traced the circle so I knew about how big to draw my sketch. And there it is. It's just a quick little freehand sketch of one of my very favorite characters. This is Tokunaga from Tales of the Abyss. It's a mascot character, and I love him, and you will likely see this appear again and again on my channel. So there's a couple little holes up here because I had actually just started trying to do this when I thought, no, I'll save it, I'll undo it, and I'll do it here on video for everybody. So I barely got a taste of it. You're still getting some first reactions. Anyways, so we've got that, got our hoop. So this, I believe, I think I'm doing right, and I think it is just as easy as I kind of, you can logic this stuff out, and I think it worked fine. So you put it there, and then you put this over top to lock it in. It's not quite centered, so let me try that again. It's good. Yeah, okay, that looks and feels good. Okay, so then you got it on, and then you just tighten her up. I don't know how important it is for it to be really taut, but this feels good enough to me. Right off the bat, I was a little bit unsure how to thread. Do I treat it just like I'm using thread and hand stitching, in which case it's doubled over like this? That was my plan, so let's just, like I said, get cracking, and we'll see what happens here. So while we're speeding over this clip here, I thought I would take a minute just to talk about a couple things. I said in my introduction here that I tend to think about doing things for a long time before I actually do them. I hesitate to do these things, not because I don't think I'll do them well, but because I'm afraid I won't do them right. And that's what stopped me for so long. I wasn't sure exactly what the difference was between the different kinds of fabrics you can get, and I didn't know what size needle I might need and all that kind of stuff. And so I was worried that I wouldn't do it justice, that I wouldn't do it properly. And I guess worst case scenario, that might offend somebody who really loves needlepoint and knows all of the theory behind it. But that is something I'm working on, and I don't think that it's a thought process that any of us should let hold us back. I think it's easy to think you might make a fool of yourself, but at the end of the day, especially when it comes to things like this, I think it's really important to remember that this is art, and there's no wrong way to make art. And if you've got whatever materials you have and you create something, then you've succeeded. You've accomplished whatever it is you created. If all I want to do is to take needle and thread and paint in a picture with my needle and thread, even if I don't do that in a way that's conventional or traditional to needlepoint, then I guess I wasn't doing needlepoint, you know? I create something that I like, and that's all that matters. It's not about conforming to that exact label of what a particular art form is, so much as it is just about creating something that you want to make. And sometimes freeing yourself from the idea that you have to stick within a particular set of rules can even open the door to greater creativity. Thank you for coming to my mid-editing TED Talk. Okay, so I've done all my outlining. So far so good. It's going about as I expect. It's looking pretty good to me. So there's a few things left inside the eyes, inside the mouth, and some of these kind of notches. Those are going to be on top. Those are final details. So I have skipped them over. And now I just have to like color in everywhere, which I have a couple different thoughts on how I might do it. I'll try a couple different things in a couple different places maybe, but quite frankly I think it's just going to be too much work to do on camera. This is going to be sitting in front of the TV work, so I will be back when that is beautiful and done. And it's done! It's been a long enough time that my nails are a different color, but it's done. And I really like it. I think it turned out pretty good. I'll get up close so we can get lots of texture and stuff on camera. Yeah, this was definitely something that went pretty much as I expected. Inside the eyes and the mouth, I did it kind of how I for some reason I think that's how it's supposed to be done, with like these tight little stitches, which now it's kind of hard to see because I've gone and covered over it. Yeah, we've got all these like little stitches, and I tried my best to keep them a consistent size and then just kind of go back and forth and fill in with all these little stitches. And then when I covered over with the details, I just did kind of whatever length stitch I thought fit best. And then for everything else, you can see I just did like one big long stitch for the whole length of the space I was covering. So down here it was little stitches, then longer and longer and longer, and I was just going all the way across every time. Same thing through the face, and then, you know, if I hit an eye, then that's the distance, and then straight down. Yeah, so that's just kind of the two ways of filling in the image that I wanted to try out. And I don't have any real conclusions about that other than I like them. I think that doing the long stitches is kind of cool. It gives this like length to the image. It keeps it more whole instead of breaking it down into, it's almost like a pixelated image when you do the little stitches like that. I also found that it was a bit trickier. Obviously doing a bunch of little stitches takes a long time. It's hard to get exactly the same length every time. The back's a holy mess, always is. All around, like, I would generally say that this was a success. This was fun. I'm definitely going to keep playing around with it. I am pretty excited to try and do the kinds that have like writing. I think it'd be cool to kind of do script and stitch that out. I think that'll be cool. The only thing, of course, with this is that sometimes with your really long pieces, they're not held super tight in place. So in this case, they're kind of free to move around. You can move them back and forth, so you have to be careful about getting full coverage of the white underneath. And then sometimes you end up losing this dark line a little bit because they kind of cover over it. So not a perfect system. I'll keep playing around with it, or I'll look up some guides and see what people would typically do for this kind of stuff. But so far, yeah, that was a really fun time. While we're here anyways, I figured we'd give cross stitch a try too. I know I'm gonna want to try it out anyways, so I might as well do it here with all of you. All I have right now in terms of supplies is these like circular grids. It is my understanding that you can get it in square as well. This is what I have, so this is what we're working with. I was trying to figure out some patterns, and like you can maybe even see there's some pen on there, because I was trying to do some sketches of something I could do on this, and it's really hard to mark these. I know you can get ones that have patterns printed on them already and then you're just following. That sounds really convenient, but it's tricky to add your own pattern onto like plastic like this. So my plan is to go freehand, and I've just picked something relatively simple that I think I'll be able to pull off, hopefully. Like, my understanding is that it's cross stitch literally means like you're making crosses, like X's. So like you pull through and do like in the corner across, and then you do the opposite way so that you're going diagonal. Make a knot. Excellent, excellent. Oh, I see what happened. Oopsies. How do I want to handle this? I keep getting tangled. I'm not quite sure what's happening. starting off with just, again, kind of going for an outline. I'm going to do the circles in the darker yellow, and then I'll go back and kind of color it in. So, something I'm finding a little bit awkward here, in order to make like a cross, you need to have 4 squares that you're going to be threading through, but because it's a circle, and every next line, like layer out, needs to be bigger than the previous one to make it a flat circle, they actually don't line up well. Like if you try and trace a straight line out, it's a problem that I've come across with like some of my crochet patterns before as well. It makes it tricky to line things up. So here, like these 4 make a decent little square, but then I'm skipping this one. But these 4 make a super awkward square, and it just gets worse as you go along. So I think that means that sometimes you skip a square. Like I'm just going to skip this one and make my cross over here. Ooh, I feel like that's my best choice. Again, we'll see how this turns out. Ooh, I found it. Okay, so this is pretty, and I don't know. Again, I don't know if this is a thing or if I'm making stuff up, but like I found this, I'm just trying to figure out where I wanted to put my needle and thread. I ended up in this bit of a pattern that's like braiding it along. Do you see that? It's a braid. So it's not like a cross like I was picturing. Again, maybe this is the right way, especially when you've got a circle like this. Maybe I'm doing weird stuff, but I like it. I'm gonna keep doing that. Okay, so I'm already realizing here this braiding technique, and obviously I should have realized this, I should have thought about it, is also kind of impacted by the fact that the outer ring, I'm going between 2 loops here, and the outer loop is bigger than the inner loop. So you end up with stretches that look really pretty. I'm kind of in one right now where everything lines up well for a bit. And you can see kind of where it started, and here again it's getting clean, but then you get these little bits in the middle where things just didn't quite line up. And if I actually did some research, or as I keep playing around with it, I'm sure I can find ways to help minimize those bits, those areas. But regardless, this takes a bit more practice, creativity, problem solving, all that good stuff. Oh my god, we're only like almost halfway. 1, I probably don't have enough thread for this. 2, my arm hurts. So there's our basic outline. I think it's not bad. We'll add the circles on the end later because I didn't really have space to fit that in after all. Oopsies. And just like before, I think I'm going to go ahead and fill it in off camera just for the sake of comfort. And then I'll check back in to show you how it went. Alright, and now this one is just about done too. So, a couple things I guess. So again, I used a couple different techniques trying to fill in around the different spots that need to be colored. I mentioned something as I was stitching about how it was already going to be too big and there wasn't going to be room for everything. And I was referring to these bits at the top here. So kind of classic shine sprite image. Looks, and it's got each of the peaks with the circle on top. And that did not fit inside of our canvas. So what I did was actually to crochet a single round of 5 stitches in a magic ring just to make a little loop, and we ended it with something kind of like that with these 2 tails on the end. And then at the very tip, we've got it kind of spaced between two squares here. And then this was kind of the trickier part, but we fit each of the tails through those hoops. I was using an itty bitty little crochet hook to do that. So let me just do that for this last one. Alright, and so then we've got our two tails here, and they are going around one of the little hooks. And then I just tie a knot to close that off. And then I've been looping it around once just to kind of help pull it back into place. It was kind of falling forwards there. And there we go. So I think I actually kind of like this. I think it's really cute. There's a different texture to it. It gives it a bit of depth. So running out of space on the edges was actually a really fun kind of challenge to figure out how else to do it. And I thought this was a super cool solution. So that's those. The eyes I ended up using yarn for as well, just because I tried to use embroidery thread and trying to get the shape of the eyes. It was just too thin and it wasn't working very well. I did come to think perhaps this template was actually designed to be used with yarn in mind, because there's a bunch of places where you can see it's pretty thin. It doesn't quite cover up. You can kind of see through it. Part of the problem I ran into here was that I wanted to go from the outside in, because I thought that would be a cool look as opposed to just going like straight. I thought the direction of it would be kind of neat, but then of course it's a million things trying to go through this center hole, so it's so thick with thread there that even though it's a bit gappy in spots, I just could not fit my needle through there a single more time. It wasn't going to work. So that's something that maybe I would need to reevaluate the next time I try. Going around the outsides, just little lines going around. And then up in all of the peaks, I did that cross stitch again. And because it wasn't unidirectional, I think this is a much more kind of traditional classic cross stitch look. And I do like it. I think it's actually pretty nice. I would definitely consider doing another project making use of that stitch a little bit more. I do think it looked pretty good the way it turned out, where we got that braiding effect, so I like that. And yeah, all things considered, pretty fun, pretty cute, and I like that too. So I thought maybe I'd give some side-by-side thoughts here. I think both techniques have their place. So doing the cross stitch, having this template, one thing I will start off by saying is I'm not exactly sure what to do now. I don't know what to do with all of the empty space or how to kind of finish it off. I think maybe these are intended to be like coasters or something, and you're supposed to fill every single slot with a pattern. I might try and cut it. I don't know. I don't really know. So that's my first concern with this type of thing. I will say that having these kind of preset grid thing made it so much easier to actually thread in and out and through and back so much faster. Using something, a cloth as fine as this, there were definitely points where my needle would get kind of stuck, even just like needing a thimble or calluses or something, because pushing through and back and pulling, it started to hurt your fingers. So I really like that about the cross stitch thing. That being said, like I was talking about as I was starting out, I did go freehand because it was really hard to sketch anything out like I did on here first. And then not only that, it was tricky trying to plan out where my lines could go, given that the circles were increasing with each row. So you have to make sure to plan your patterns accordingly, and things don't always line up straight. I really like the free form of this kind of thing. Just being able to stick your needle through, pull it out wherever you want, and that's where your line is. There's no restrictions, there's no rules. You can do whatever length, whatever shape, whatever size, and it's totally free form. So that works a little bit better for me for a lot of the things I think I would like to do. It's really just whichever style suits your needs for a particular project. That's the best one to use, no better, no worse. And yeah. So that is a first attempt at hand embroidery. I guess kind of going back to some of what I said about not knowing if I'm doing things right. I don't know if you would technically call any of this cross stitch or needlepoint, or if it is just simply hand embroidery. I'm not sure. I did end up trying to cut around my Shine Sprite here. And I think that was a good option. I think it looks pretty good now. I was just very, very careful not to cut into any square that had threaded through it, because then of course it could come loose or start to unravel. So that's how it turned out, and I suppose it still could be a coaster, or I could put it, like hang it somewhere, or keep it sitting around like I do so many of my projects until I figure out what their purpose is. But I do like it. And then of course we've got this guy as well, which again, I do see a lot of this type of thing sold within the hoop that it's made, and clearly I goofed a little bit because you can still see the line that I traced originally. Oops. But I wasn't quite sure what to do with these either. I suppose because it's got that ledge, you can hang it on something. I could put it on a wall. Haven't thought of what the end game is for this either, but whatever it is, they're both pretty cool. They're both pretty nice. This is definitely something I enjoyed enough that I will continue to pursue it, and I'll learn some new stitches, and I'll learn some new techniques, and I'll, well, get better at some of the things that I know were not perfect. Nothing is perfect on your first try, but as long as you're happy with how it turns out, then still a win. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you like the end product too. Maybe this was a little bit of either a reminder or maybe some inspiration or whatever, that it's okay to just try it out. Follow your intuition, follow your gut, follow your creativity, see where it takes you. Whatever tools you have, if they're getting the job done, then they're the right tools. I'm pretty excited. There's a few other things that I have in mind already that I'm really looking forward to trying out. So until next time, keep creating things. I will be back soon.